Welcome to Law Firms on the Map, the go-to digital marketing show for attorneys serious about their growth. I'm your host, Kristaps Brencans. Today's guest is Mark Rofe, world-renowned digital PR expert who has built tens of thousands of backlinks, high-authority backlinks from top publications around the globe. What he's most known for in the digital PR industry is his digital PR stunts and his personal business website, christmastrees.co.uk. Mark, what a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, likewise, likewise. I want to start the conversation with the point that typically our clients use Billboard advertising to get clients. Yet you used Billboard to find your love or your second half.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, wow, it was a few years ago now, but in 2020, I know it's kind of hard to believe when you look at this face, but I kind of struggled with like dating and with the girls. So, yeah, I basically just put up a billboard to try and get some dates, and it worked. It worked a little bit too well and did better than I imagined because it just kind of it just blew up and it just kind of went absolutely everywhere. It was
Seriously. So how many dates did you go on from the Billboard?
Do you know what? It wasn't even that many in the end because I put it up like end of January 2020, and then it was just a few months later, and then we had the pandemic. So I just had like a short period of time there to kind of, yeah, go on some dates. But I did, and yeah, it worked. I think I came out from it. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you should probably check it out for some kind of more
We'll put it in show notes for
yeah,
sure.
for more context. But it is so bad, like, it is awful, but that was kind of deliberate. Like, I just thought if I could make something so bad, like, it's in Comic Sans, I'm, like, laying down and doing a stupid pose. I just thought if I could make something so bad, then maybe it might almost kind of be good. That was kind of the thinking behind it anyway, so yeah.
That's so funny. So give us more background behind this because I feel like you didn't just do it for fun. It had to be some sort of overlap with your professional day to day.
I mean, a little bit in a way, I guess. So, like all good ideas, they started in the pub with my friend Josh. So shout out to Josh. He's probably not gonna listen to this, but I'm gonna send it to him anyway.
Okay, yeah, yeah, let's do
And
it.
yeah, we were just talking about our struggles with kind of online dating, I guess. And then I just kind of said, what if at this rate I should just put myself on a billboard or something along those lines. And he laughed, and then when someone laughs at something I say, which doesn't happen that often, but it just gets me kind of thinking, like, maybe there's something here. And I thought, what if I actually did do that? And Josh is one of those friends that's kind of like, yeah, you should do it. Like he egged me on. So yeah, a few months later, I actually did go ahead and do it. And I just thought I would use my skills with kind of PR to try and yeah, see if I could get myself a date. And yeah, it worked. I think I planned it just before Valentine's because I knew that there would kind of be stories, journalists would be looking for stories about love around then. And yeah, it just blew up and went kind of crazy, really.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So you're sort of starting to shift into now the digital PR processes and what it is. So just give us like a maybe a very simple breakdown of what are the digital PR types and how to navigate those avenues.
Yeah, so I think like if you look at any kind of PR idea, it really boils down to kind of like two things that make them work. And one is kind of like the emotion. So if you can make people like feel something, whether it's make them laugh or make them smile or make them sad or even make them scared or kind of angry. So that's kind of like one component. And then the other thing is kind of like timeliness. So fitting that in kind of within the news cycle, really. So Billboard is a good example of that. Provokes a kind of emotion, whether people liked it or hated it or laughed at it, whatever. There was an emotion aspect there. It made people want to share it. And then the timeliness aspect, because it kind of tied in, around Valentine's Day. But I guess back to your question, the different types of PR, I guess they can be more or less put into kind of like 2 buckets, which I would call maybe like campaign-led kind of PR campaigns, which is where maybe you would go and perhaps do a piece of research or kind of like, go out there and get some data, put it all together, and then package it as a story, and then send it to journalists.
Hmm.
And then I guess there's the other aspect, which is maybe called like reactive, which is where there's something that is happening now, something that's trending now, and you kind of jump on the back of it and try and position yourself within that story, to get some coverage as well.
So we have data driven PR, reactive. Where would you put the billboard one?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that was more like kind of a campaign-led thing. So, I knew when I was gonna do it and I knew, it was planned, whereas kind of reactive stuff would maybe be where something just happens in the news cycle and I kind of just like maybe a celebrity does something or like a new TV show comes out or something and I just jump on the back of that for like a story or something. Yeah.
So we've been working together for a little while now. And have you learned quite a bit about the legal marketing industry and legal industry in general in the US. So from the things you've seen, what do you think are more opportune areas for attorneys to get started with digital PR?
I think the great thing about just like, law or any kind of legal expertise in general is that it comes up all the time, like every day. People are having like legal problems or, it can be related to like housing, it can be travel. It's just so broad. And when you have that, that just means that there's so many opportunities that you could potentially use to try and create a story or insert yourself into a story to kind of go out there and gain coverage.
Would that fall more on the reactive side? So you're like using the attorney as the expert on topic and saying, hey, here's our thoughts on this event that you're covering.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that could be one angle that you could kind of go down. So, for example, I'm not very good with kind of the world of like celebrities, but they often get written about, right? Celebrity does absolutely anything and it gets written about. So one example might be Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. They broke up or they were getting a divorce or something. So you, as a maybe if you've got legal expertise, you might be able to use that story to insert yourself into it and be like, a divorce expert says how much this divorce is potentially going to cost the pair or one of them or something like that. And the good thing about stories like that is that if Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck broke up, the stories were kind of everywhere. And when that happens, journalists, the story's broken. It's kind of old news now. They've broken up, right? That now journalists are looking for like new angles. So they're actively being like, right, what's the new story here as it kind of develops?
Oh, I see. Like a new angle to the story.
Exactly. So you can see that story kinda go everywhere, and you just if you're like an attorney or a lawyer or whatever, you could basically just need to think like a journalist and be like, "Right, what's the next angle that they're looking for?" But then kind of act like a lawyer and just basically almost give your opinion on it, basically. Just give your expertise. It's likely to cost this much or that much. And I'm pretty sure journalists would have like, a field day on that. Just be you essentially doing your job, like, being able to kind of give some help or information. And there's so many examples of like that kind of stuff happening all the time. So
I want to double click on this a little bit more because, hypothetically, this sounds great. Like, oh, yeah, there's a story and I have an opinion on it. But what are the steps to get there? What are some tools attorneys can use or their team to, I think, one, monitor these stories? And then how do you even pitch them? Because, we need to communicate to journalists somehow.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that maybe that might be one of the challenges of doing this type of work. But you can do it yourself but if you're able to work with a PR agency or a freelancer or something like that, they may be able to just spot the opportunities for you and then just kind of be ask you or tell you, hey, this has happened. This is what I need. Can you get that to me? And I can get in contact on your behalf.
That's what we do with our clients. But let's say, some teams are kind of like self independent. If they just want to do it themselves, let's say they find a story, they want to pitch it, you know, Do you go look for the journalist name? Kind of like what's the steps behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I would approach it is I'd be like, right, in that example, what kind of celebrity or gossip or whatever you want to call them types of publications have covered that divorce, the news of that divorce.
It could be also like hurricanes or other type of yeah. It's so many different
Exactly.
angles.
It could be anything like that. Who's writing about that stuff? And then find their name, find their email address, and just kind of send them like an email. And the type of thing that I'll be messaging them would be like, in this example, would be like, divorce lawyer reveals XYZ, whatever the story might be. And then it can just be like a little bit of a comment. Often doesn't have to be that long, but the more you give, kind of the better. And what I would really say here is that you need to be thinking about the story and not about selling your services because that almost sounds like too commercial. It sounds like too much of an advert. Here, your objective is not to sell what it is that you do, it's to add value to that story. And as a side effect of doing that, you're likely going to get a mention if it gets covered and hopefully get a link back to your website. And then that's where the value is going to be for you. You might help you with your SEO or someone might see it, and basically get in touch with you to use your services. That's where the value is going to be really.
And obviously, that process should be multiplied to increase your chances of getting covered. Not just don't pitch just one journalist. Try to find several similar stories and pitch all of them.
100%. Yeah, you want to contact as many relevant, I would say, journalists. So basically, look at the ones that have covered that story because they're not all going to be interested. It'd be great if they were all interested in your story, but that just doesn't happen. In some instances, if it's like a big publication that you really want to get into, you might offer that as an exclusive to them. If you do that with kind of a well-known publication, you can get kind of like a snowball effect. So if it does get featured on there, what you'll find is that some other publications may also cover it. They copy or cover what someone else has said.
Okay, very cool. So we did a pretty nice deep dive on reactive PR. Now I want to talk more about data driven or what's the right label? Campaign digital PR.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I'm just trying to bucket them into two kind of easily identifiable things. So, like campaign one is probably more just like, yes, it's just more planned. You're not hopping onto something that's trending or like necessarily just breaking in the news cycle.
So that's something you've been helping us with, and I think you've seen now the progression there. Right? I think one of the best campaigns we did together got nearly 40 links, just one article. So that was pretty impressive and exciting. So it's still relatively new thing in legal marketing, digital PR. So let's kind of go step by step. What is campaign-based digital PR, and how it should be approached?
The way that I would approach it, I think the way that it works best is ideally to find some kind of data source. Um, Ideally, an authoritative bit of data source, so maybe some kind of government data or something like that, and just kind of picking through it to try and find like your hooks or your angles for that story. So one example might be you look at DUI data. You use this data, you look through it, and you try to find the DUI capital of the states. And if you're using like authoritative data, what that then does is it automatically means you've got trust and credibility there already with your story because you're using like official kind of data and stats. And it can be you've done the research, so you can kind of say, XYZ lawyer firm analyze data from whatever the data source is, and then push that out. And those types of stories can work quite well, especially in the states, because you can go out with lots of different angles. You could send that out to maybe cities or counties in one state, and if it doesn't land there, that's fine because you've got angles you can go out with, in other states as well. So I guess you've got like a nice diversified list of publications, and you've been with a big pool of publications that you can approach. It just increases your chances of coverage, basically.
Correct. Something I learned working with you was and you said this initially, pressing on the emotions. Can you speak on that kind of like the worst state or the best, kind of like what the significance of emotion and the data, how you're connecting it, so the journalists say, okay, yeah, people will want to read this.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said earlier on, but basically, there's two components to a story that works, and it is like the emotional side and the timeliness side. So you want to time it in with the news cycle if you can. But the emotion side is just like you want people to feel something when they read it. I do a lot of kind of consultancy with lots of different agencies, and sometimes they will write like a press release, and it's good. The story is in there, but it just needs to be added. It just needs to be turned from maybe an article into a story, and you want to make people, yeah, just feel something from it. And often, if it is like the worst, X whatever it is that you're kind of doing, then that makes people feel something. The regional publications there will probably more likely to write about it as well, especially if you're pitching them against like, um, maybe rivalries in terms of states or cities or whatever, who's best or so that's basically what you want to try to do if you can.
One more question on this process. Okay, so we got the piece, we package it up, we have great data, we have great angle. We need to find a journalist. Let's give listeners some practical tips on how to approach that.
So in the UK, I've noticed it is a little bit easier to find the contact details of journalists. You know, often journalists are more likely to have a Twitter or X account, and maybe they've put it on there. In the States, I've noticed journalists may be less likely to use Twitter, or if they do, less likely to put their email address in their bio there. So I think it's just a case of like digging around. Sometimes it will be like on their author page, or sometimes you'll maybe be able to find like their colleague's email address, but not the journalist that you want. And when you do that, you can kind of make an educated guess on what their email address will be. So, just use the same format. If it's like first name dot last name at publication name, you can often just try that. There are tools that can help you, but I'm just going from the, let's say you've got no budget. It's just a lot of digging and just figuring it out. But there's plenty of media databases out there that can help you to do that as well.
Even before that, how did you strategically approach building the media list? Because like I think that's such a big component of this. Because honestly, yeah, you'll figure out how to get the email, how to find the journalist, but how to even get to that point, like who is your target journalist list, and how to make that decision who you want to go after.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. And I think that for me, I'm taking more of like a manual approach to doing it. So some people will just take a media database and just be like, right, I'll tick all the journalists in Texas and I'll send it to all of them. And then the problem if you do that is that yes, you might be sending it to some relevant journalists, but you might be sending it to journalists that write about, I don't know, like sports teams or something like that. And your story isn't really for them.
Learn from our mistakes. Don't do that. We tried that for a while. We're just like, it's not working. We're not getting any results. So then Mark came in and helped us figure it out. And that was a big key element that we learned from our experience was really building these highly customized media lists of people that are covering similar topics. That's when it really, that's when the story connects with them.
It's also, I think that anyone can get a media database and just send it to that list. That's not really, there's no skills needed and or required for that. And yes, sometimes it can work, but these media databases don't have everyone in them. So basically, you're leaving links or pieces of coverage on the table if that's the only thing that you're using. It depends on the campaign. So if I go back to like that example from the beginning with Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, I will maybe just be using like search terms that I'm just trying to find journalists that have covered that. So I'm using their names and I'm heading to Google News to try and find the journalists that have covered that story to send out my piece of expertise. Or if it's not that kind of story and it's more like a regional type story, then maybe I'll be typing in like Texas or maybe some cities within Texas and using some types of keywords like maybe like Texas revealed or Texas ranked or whatever, just to find journalists that cover those types of stories. I prefer this approach. It does take longer, but what it also means is that if the story doesn't land and it doesn't work, I know that I've sent them to, the right people that cover that kind of stuff. If I just go down the media database route, I'm like, right, was it the story? I don't know. Or did I send it to the right people? I just, there's more question marks over why it worked or didn't work.
You're giving away some really great advice here, and I can attest that it definitely works. And now it's part of our process. So that's very exciting. All right, turning a page here. What's the most links you have acquired per campaign?
It's not really a campaign, but I don't think I will ever do anything as big as that billboard ever again because that did go crazy. I mean, it was on Jimmy Fallon,
Really?
it was on Ellen. Kelly Clarkson's got a TV show. I don't know if she has still now, but it was on there. It was even like on like this German. I was like an answer on like this German quiz show. It literally just kind of exploded and went everywhere. So I don't think I can give that as an answer because that's probably not fair. But I would probably say I worked with like a broadband kind of comparison company, which probably is maybe more known in the States as kind of like a cable company or something like that. Yeah, one campaign did there. To be honest, maybe got like over 100 links. There have been campaigns out there that have got plenty more than that, but that's one that I can remember that did pretty well.
Okay, nice. I mean, just I think like a month ago, you wrote about flying out to Portugal.
This was a PR stunt with a purpose. Is probably the best thing I would say. So, I live in Barcelona. I miss this place called Nando's that's in the UK. It's kind of like Portuguese, South African cuisine. I just flew from Barcelona to London Gatwick, ate at Nando's at the airport, and then just flew back, and then pushed that out as a story to get some coverage, and it worked. But the reason I did that was because I run this newsletter, so a digital PR newsletter where I share tips every week, and I wanted to talk about news agencies, and news agencies sell their stories to the media. So when I did that, I worked with a news agency who's then sold that story, and I'm hoping, and I don't know yet, that I should earn enough to hopefully make my money back from that trip.
Oh man, you should have reached out to Nando's because I feel like they're the real winners here. I actually thought you worked with them on this.
No, no, no. I mean, if I could just make my money back from it, that would be great. I mean, it didn't cost a lot because then I could do it again like next week or something, you know. So
If anyone from Nando's is watching this, guys, please cover this guy's
exactly,
trip.
yeah.
He's so much free publicity.
Or just bring Nando's to Barcelona. Like we'd
Oh,
love it.
see?
Yeah.
No, let's pitch them that. That's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
guy
Yeah.
who traveled though, then was bringing you back. Okay, but jokes aside, I think there's some power to these PR stunts. And yeah, we are in a little bit kind of like not as exciting industry, legal industry. I don't know if you follow NBA, but NBA season just started 2 days ago, and almost every single game I'm seeing huge billboards within the NBA games. Some of the biggest law firms are spending tons of money to reach those audiences during the sports games. What are some PR stunts that just are on top of your mind that maybe lawyers could experiment with?
I would pick like a strategy. For example, do you want to be known like within your locality, or do you want to be known for like maybe your discipline? Like let's say like you are like a divorce lawyer. So like do you I would probably choose one of those like kind of avenues, but
Let's do personal injury lawyer.
personal injury lawyer. I haven't got an idea for personal injury, but
Okay.
uh I just find that I'm sticking with divorces because I just thought it's just a little bit easier. But
Okay. Okay.
I think that if everyone, like you said, is doing ads for MBA, it kind of gets a bit lost and a bit muddled. Everyone kind of looks the same. So I would try and buck that trend and just do something completely different. So sticking with divorce, maybe you could offer like I don't know, and I would do this around Valentine's maybe, but like a breakup service for people who are scared to break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife or something like that. So you pay them $20 and they'll call on your behalf and kind of do it for you, something like that. It's a bit silly, but it bucks the trend. You know, if everyone else is doing super serious stuff, maybe you could kind of go down that route.
And then you would have like a landing page for it, and then you would pitch that to journalists, or
I mean, if I was to actually do that, yeah, I would probably have like a landing page with the phone number or the details or whatever to apply or call or whatever on there. So the links get directed to that page. Something super simple could be like, you know, the $1 divorce. So you offer to help people get divorced, but for $1. And I think that's the kind of thing where you don't have to do that for everyone. But if you did that for maybe, I don't know, one client a month or something like that, you might generate like way more, you know, publicity activity or kind of, get links to your website as a result of that. I would imagine that if you did something like that, the publicity would be worth the loss that you would maybe make on.
Yeah, $1 divorce for one client. That's
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
I love it. That's pretty good. Okay, we're coming to an end. I did want to ask you a little more technical question. Obviously, digital PR and SEO they go hand to hand, and you've been in SEO world, same time as you've been in digital PR. How do you observe the actual impact of it? Because it's great to get the links, everyone's excited, but like, when should you expect that to translate in results, and what's the best way to even analyze that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really difficult question, and I think people are still trying to figure that out. To be honest with you, I mean, we know when it comes to SEO, it is content, it's technical SEO, and then it's basically links. So if you're missing any of those components, and you're probably going to struggle with ranking. So I think that's always been the tricky question, and it's how much is like a link worth. I don't know if there's really an answer, because it also depends maybe on the type of activity that you're doing. So a link might be worth more to one business than another, because of the ROI. Looking maybe at a longer over things over a longer term, and not looking at like, oh, we got a link or a piece of coverage yesterday, and my rankings going up. I think you just have to look at things maybe in like 3, 6, even 12 months, just to kind of really see an uptick in kind of rankings, and also like leads and or inquiries.
And you're kind of touching on something interesting. When Ferry Casoni was on our podcast too, he said, don't just do one campaign and like expect the results to just start flowing in. Like, I mean, it will boost your site a little bit, but really it's that consistency factor too, that once you commit to digital PR, it's sort of a thing that you should be doing on an ongoing basis.
I would say that as well, because but I think there's just so many things. It depends on your competitors in the search engine results. If they've got loads and loads of links and you don't, it might take you longer to see increases. Whereas if maybe they don't have so many links and you're able to get some, maybe you can kind of go up faster. But yeah, I think it's a slow burn. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's just trusted in the process, really, I think.
Got it. Well, Mark, you've been very generous with your time and ideas. You definitely shared a ton of nuggets. Any final takeaways for attorneys looking to sprinkle some digital PR in their marketing?
So what I would say is that it's probably more helpful to your business than you probably think it is. If you think about how people are discovering attorneys, they're going to be searching a lot, whether that's at the moment kind of on Google, or even using things that, like ChatGPT or Perplexity, those types of things. So you want to make sure that you're kind of, being discovered on there, and you're going to need PR to help you with that, really. So if you care about getting clients, then you should be caring about PR.
And if you don't know how to do it, just ping us. We'll help
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome, Mark. This was incredible episode. Where can people find you if they have some questions or want to learn more about digital PR?
Oh, they could just Google me, Mark Rofe, sign up to my newsletter, add me on LinkedIn. Yeah, ignore all the photos of me that come up on Google, like the Billboard ones,
Oh,
especially. Yeah.
we're gonna lead this podcast YouTube video thumbnail with your
Yeah.
billboard. All right, Mark. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you spending
Thanks for
some time
having
with
me.
us, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.